Thanks, John and Michelle, and thanks again, Chris, for your words. I am glad to be here and look forward to sharing this message with you and about step 8, which is made a list of all persons we had harmed and became willing to make amends to them all. What an important step. And these words that we heard from John and Michelle, the words from Luke that Chris referred to, come in a point in Jesus' life. It's part of the Sermon on the Mount. That is when Jesus talked about blessed are those who, and a part of that sermon are the words that we read today, which is, in a way, Jesus' Sermon on the Mount was often described as like his political platform to start his ministry. They talk about how we Americans have the Declaration of Independence, and Marx had his thing about communism. Jesus began by preaching about, this is what I'm about. This is what my Father's will is about. This is what I'm coming to share and to inaugurate into a new way of being a people of God, and especially for those who felt really, really left out and harmed by religion as they knew it back then. So Jesus says, do not judge others and you will not be judged. Do not condemn others or it will come back to you. Forgive others and you will be forgiven. Give and you will receive. Your gift will return to you in full, pressed down, shaken together, to make room for more, running over and poured into your lap. The amount you give will determine the amount you get back. Isn't that something? And he's just laying it out there. They said, I read one commentary and the author said, well, this is a form of preaching. It's called charaz or C-H-A-R-A-Z. And what it means is stringing beads together. And what Jesus is doing is just like rattling all these sayings off and then putting a clip in and rattling more. Because they said back then with preaching, the audience, their attention span wasn't very long. Anybody with them? Yeah. What are the ADHD people? Like, keep it coming, Jesus, And he just firing. Okay, here's what. Don't judge others and you won't be judged. Okay? I get that. Don't condemn others and it will not come back to you or against you. It's just very plain advice. He's not saying if you judge others, God's going to let you have it. It's just that don't do that. And forgive others. That's the positive side. And you will be forgiven. Chris's closing quote was about that. Give and you will receive. How novel. But it's really beautiful. And when I think about preparing to do step 8, I don't know if you remember when you sat down to make a list of people you had harmed, what that was like for you. For me, I had a long list in front of me. And I had this, fortunately, I had been through steps 1 through 7, so I had gained some trust in this God I was rediscovering through the process of recovery. And I did not want to go back to the hell I'd been living, and I certainly didn't want to hurt anybody else anymore in the process. But looking at admitting the harms I'd done, on the front end, it looks really awful. It's like, I just don't want to go there. I don't know if I have the energy. My alcoholism beat me down so badly. I've suffered so much. I don't know if I have the energy to even make a list and look at that. But we are told, that we are able to love, we're able to do this because of a power greater than us, because of a power greater than the alcoholism, because of a power greater than the damage that we've caused or that's done to us by those who are a part of. They say using people, use people. And it's that trade-off, like, okay, he took from me, I'm going to take from him. And then it's just this awful cycle of harming others and then they harming in return. And it's that cyclical experience that is often a part of active addiction. And this is a process where Jesus says to his audience, and AA says to those in the rooms, there's a way out. There's a way to break that cycle. And for me, and for most of us, I think it begins with an understanding of God's forgiveness. That God understands this. That's so much a part, I believe, of why Jesus came to bring the good news. Because in Jesus's time, the cycle was you do wrong, you gotta buy these animals and you gotta sacrifice them, and then you offer them to God. And there was all this, way of trying to get right with God and make things okay through these sacrifices. And I don't know that they were that effective. I would dare say they weren't. And when we get to the process of recovery, I think oftentimes we can look at our situation and say, I don't know if this is ever going to get better. In fact, I don't know how to make it better. And God says, well, let me show you. And Jesus said, well, why don't you start here? Start by forgiving others, beginning with yourself. We're told that in rooms of AA, aren't we? Make sure when you do your list of those people you've harmed, put yourself first. Because that's the thing about alcoholism, about addiction. It beats the you-know-what out of us, and it stands over us and goes, why'd you beat yourself up? It just punishes us, and then it blames us for the damage and the harm we experience. So if we can start by saying, okay, it's time to let go of all that, all the shame, all the remorse, all the regret, we let it go. That's forgiving. That's forgiving. That's giving it in advance. That's letting go before it occurs. That's trusting a power that is greater than the harms we've done and saying, I know I can't make this better, but I need a power greater than me to start doing that. And it's just, I don't know of any other way to do this stuff because, like I said, there was a lot of harms. I was talking with one guy. He was in early recovery, and he was estranged from his wife. And he went to see her. And I said, how'd it go? And he goes, well, not so good. She was looking for justice, and I was looking for grace. And that's often the case, isn't it? When we've harmed someone, we're looking for grace. But the people we've harmed are often looking for justice. And it's this strange experience where, when Jesus comes on the scene and says, I get that equation. I get the miss. And so what I'm going to say is I'm going to declare that everybody's forgiven. We're going to stop keeping score. We're going to approach this in a different way. We're going to say there's a love that is greater than the math isn't important. The love is. The love is mysterious. It's a crazy love. It's a power greater than any damage that's occurred. And I just think it's amazing because I know they did research on forgiveness. I read an article and they said that they interviewed, 500 and some people, and all of them who experienced forgiveness, the ability to forgive another, said it. I don't know how, but it just started happening. Forgiveness happened to me. I didn't forgive them. I was like freed from, as Chris was saying, freed from the need to keep score and to hold on to that stuff. Isn't that beautiful? And I just think that as Christians, as people in recovery, to even go there and to be open to that is essential to this step, because it's offering to someone something that we are not able to offer. But yet it's available to us. I just think that is so telling of this power that's greater than us, that is God. We're told to be merciful, just as God has been merciful. I remember a story of one of my kids was dating and a guy, and he cheated on her, and it was not good. And she said, I just remembered, as bad as it was, I just remembered how there's that story in the Bible, Dad, about the guy who was forgiven a debt, and then upon being forgiven, he ran into a guy on his way home who owed him something, and he just laid into him about, paying back his debt. And she goes, I had to look at how God has forgiven me, and that enabled me to understand that from a different angle. And so what I love about step 8, and I love about this passage, is this idea that who we are as believers, as people of God, is not just about doctrine and ideas and theology. It's about my relationships, my real relationships. That it's as practical as being free from the need to judge. It's as practical as watching a relationship that was really destroyed and really harmed by addiction get better. I mean, that to me is where I see the miracles of recovery and the activity of God in those relationships where I can say, yeah, there was a time when I was estranged from my children, and it was very awkward being around him, and now it's not the case. It really does work. Healing is possible. And it's not, as I like to say, it's not because I'm a good guy. It's because we believe in a good God who wants us to know that, yeah, I get it. You guys struggle to love each other. That somehow along the way we hurt each other terribly. But there is a way through this. There is a way to heal. And step 8 acknowledges the fact that we are in relationship and that alcoholism does not like that. I read a statistic that for every one alcoholic or addict, 4 people are adversely affected. So let's say, I read one statistic, there was 21 million alcoholics, addicts, 21 million in America that probably meet criteria for substance use disorder. So you times that times 4. And you're talking about a lot of people. Hey, I'm not good at math, but it's a lot of people. And but all that means is that part of recovery, think of how people suffer because of the one alcoholic or addict. And thank God for a program that says what you're going to do, you're healing, attempting to heal those relationships, it's going to be healing for you and hopefully healing for all those people who've been harmed because of this thing. I don't know if you remember, there was a guy who used to say, alcoholism's the only disease I know that kills people that don't have it. And recognizing that is to say, I want to be a part of healing. I don't want to be a part of harming anymore. And that's why we're doing this church. Because we're starting in the fall again our Reclaiming Your Relationship from Addiction program for couples, and we're starting a family program that'll be online during supper time on Tuesdays. Because I know that people have been harmed by this who have never touched a drink, and we want to be a part of that healing process as a church. So I thank you, Lord, for this call, as he says, therefore be merciful just as your Father also is merciful. Judge not, and you shall not be judged. Condemn not, and you shall not be condemned. Forgive, and you will be forgiven. Give, and it will be given to you. Good measure, pressed down, shaken together, and running over will be put into your lap. For with the same measure that you use, it will be measured back to you. Amen.